it's always a pleasure. Go Cubs, etc. But
Yeah, go Cubs, baby.
hello to all my Libertyville peeps there, and again, thank you very much. Is anything for you guys and for Chicago? It's like this was my radio station that did so much for Rage and Audioslave, so I appreciate it. Hello. Hey, what's going on, man? How are you?
Look at this. We got Tom Morello here. He's here, Q101 virtually, soon to be hopefully in the studio. We'd love to have you come. And it's been so long.
Right on.
But Tom Morello here with Brian and Kenzie and Q101, it goes together. And we're so happy you took the time to talk to us, Tom. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Anything for Chicago.
Well, anything for you from Chicago to you as, I want to start talking about, because you got the show with the Vic coming up in November, and obviously we're gonna get to that because we have some, you have specific history with the Vic, almost an anniversary, really, when we look at it from this year. But going back just a couple of weeks ago, the emotions of you being the musical director for the Ozzy Osbourne Black Sabbath farewell show, which I think even did 1,000,000,000% more than people thought it would do in just the metal rock community, but it turned out to be a cultural movement.
Yeah.
And you put all that stuff together, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, well, I mean, when I was approached by Ozzy and Sharon, it was over a year before when they reached out, I was like, if we're going to do this thing, it's got to be the greatest day in the history of heavy metal. Like, this is going to be, if we do this right, it's going to be the most important day in the history of that entire genre. We worked hard to make that happen. And it was on the day, there's a million things could have gone wrong, and maybe like 3 things did, but it felt like a spiritually great moment for all fans of rock and roll, all fans of music. Heavy metal was the music that made me love music, and Black Sabbath invented heavy metal. And then, Ozzy Osbourne was the artist who found Randy Rhoads. That was the poster that was on my wall when I was practicing 8 hours a day. The Ozzy and Black Sabbath could not be more important to me personally as a fan and as an artist. Like, so much of my DNA is wrapped up in them, and I owe any note that I've ever played in large measure to them. So I really laid out, man, to do everything I could to make it a great show for fans. And for them, it's so unusual that, you have that kind, when Freddie Mercury passed away, they did that great show for him. When Taylor Hawkins passed away, but those guys were there. They headlined it. They got to see all these, the work that they had done, and the great artists that their music had created perform for them, perform their songs for them. And then they got to play and feel the love, not just from the other bands, not just from the 40,000 people in the stadium, but from people all over the world. It was a really, really moving day.
Yeah, and then just sadly, weeks later, or a week and a half later, whatever, Ozzy passes.
Yeah,
and I got to imagine that really hit you in a spiritual weird way.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it's a tragedy, and Ozzy Osbourne's lived a pretty on the edge lifestyle for a long time. And the fact that he lived as long as he did was a miracle. The fact that he lived to play and feel that love, and to one more time, do Paranoid, to do Crazy Train. If you've got to go, I mean, I wish that Ozzy lived another 30 years, but like, if you've got to go out, that's, it really felt like he knew how, I mean, he came to the after party, like he came to the after party. And I was actually playing pinball with my son Roman, and somebody's tapped me on the shoulder. I'm like, get off me! I'm like, I'm having a good game. Get off me! And it was Jack Osbourne. It's like, Ozzy wants to say hi. I'm like, oh my god! Sorry, man. So I got to one more time, tell him I love him, thank him, kiss his head, and so he's one of the all-time greats. So it was quite a day.
Was it surprising to you, his passing, based on like the state you saw him in at the show, since he was at the after party and everything?
Completely. I mean, he's been frail for a while, but friends of mine saw him a week later. He was at another event in Birmingham a week later. He wasn't like on his death, he was just sort of living his life.
Right.
So yeah, it was a terrible and tragic surprise, but that rather than dwelling on that, I'd like to dwell on just what an amazing and incredible, groundbreaking career he and Black Sabbath, had, and the fact that we really got to, I don't know if there's ever been an event like that where while everybody's alive, they really got the full measure of how the world loves them.
And we had Billy Corgan on and mentioned how at one point they looked over and the show being in Birmingham, and I think it was Tony Iommi had told him, you know, we grew up like right there.
Oh, dude, you can walk from the stadium to Ozzy's house. It's less than a 20-minute. For people were doing it. People in bands were doing it. Like Chad Smith was like walked after rehearsal. It's a less than a 20-minute walk. Ozzy could hear. He couldn't afford tickets, but he could hear the cheering, of the soccer fans from his backyard when he was a kid.
Yeah. It's unbelievable. It's
yeah.
mind-boggling.
And speaking of Billy Corgan, a little so Billy's from the northern suburbs, and Adam Jones from Tool is from Libertyville. We played in a band together, in high school. But the three of us had never played together. So one of the things that I, in my curatorial duties, when I was sort of looking at the map of how the day is going to go, I'm like, that's going to happen on that day. Adam and I used to drive to see, Sabbath and Judas Priest at Alpine Valley, in his truck. And Billy, had those same experiences. So, for the three of us to play with KK Downing, to do a Judas Priest, also from Birmingham, to play, a Judas Priest song, and then to play a Black Sabbath song, the three Northern Illinois metalheads with KK Downing, and Danny Carey. It was mind blowing. It was just
Tom,
really.
I don't think people talk about this enough, Tom. You went to high school with Adam Jones and Billy Corgan nearby. Yeah. Three of the bands that defined a generation were just in this small quadrant of Chicago, and you were in the same high school as Adam Jones.
People don't talk about enough. Adam and I played in a band for like 4 years when we were 16, 17 years old. Yeah.
Right? Insane. Like, what was in the water? Like, what was going on there? We're not pumping them out like that anymore.
Yeah, I mean, and the crazy thing is, like, we're not the most famous people from that town. There's also Marlon Brando.
Don't sell yourself short.
He got kicked out of LHS for riding his motorcycle in the hall. We're somewhere down on the list, but I'll take it.
Oh my gosh, unbelievable. Well, listen, it's a great time for you to come home. We're talking about home. It's Tom Morello and Friends at the Vic, November 13th, and this is like April '93. There's a recording on YouTube. You can find it of Rage Against the Machine with House of Pain at the Vic. That's probably the last time you played the Vic, if I imagine.
You know what? I think I played there with Cypress Hill at some point too. Yeah, we played there with Cypress Hill, and that show was particularly memorable because my mom, Mary Morello, was introducing the band, and so we're downstairs getting ready for the show, and my mom's just sort of wandering around. She's a very independent woman, and she says to like some stagehand, like, "Should I introduce the band?" And they go, "Sure." Now we're 20 minutes away from being ready to play the show. My mom walks on stage to the thing and goes. Gives her like anti-censorship speech or whatever. It says, "Please welcome Rage Against the Machine." We're downstairs. I hear a. I'm like, wow, what's going on? Is there a fight or something up there? What's going on? I'm putting my socks on, and Mary Morello has introduced the band. And later on, I walk up and I'm like, what was that? What was people yelling about? She's like, I introduced you guys. I'm like, Mom, don't. And then so then from that point forward, I was like, I gotta look you in the eye and tell you when to go introduce the band. From now
that's your mom though. You still have to listen to her. You should have been running to the stage. Like my mom said, it's time to go on.
I didn't know she was there. I would have gone in my socks and underwear if I had known.
So and tell us the show with Tom Morello and Friends. Yeah. Do you want to reveal some of the friends?
Well, here's the thing. All I can say is you can look at precedent. And over the course of the last 3 years or so, I've been doing these shows around the country and around the world where it's on that particular day, that particular week, we see who's in town. Like the last time we played in LA, it was Slash, it was RZA, it was Little Steven from the E Street Band. It might be some local musician who I just love and have up on stage. So for all these shows, we're going to keep it open. But I will say this, you never know. Like you really do never know. And one of the hallmarks of my career is I love, much like with the Sabbath show, I love curating a once in a lifetime night. And so I haven't done all of my, texting and whatnot to see who's going to be around then.
So but you don't even know. You're like, I never know. I know. Like, we never know.
I know a couple of them, and you're going to be very pleased. But you never know, because I'll also check other people's touring schedules and see if somebody's if we could fly them in for a day or something. But the idea is over the course of the last 3 years, I've been really embracing the totality of my career. I've until this point, I've kind of everything's been pretty compartmentalized. Either it's a Rage tour, or an Audio Slave tour, or a Night Watchman acoustic tour, etc. But now we play it all. Like, I love those Rage Against the Machine riffs. People deserve it, especially in these particularly troubled times. They need to hear those Rage riffs. Audio Slave and Chris Cornell is so near and dear to people's hearts and to me. Like, I feel the pain of his loss every day. Soundgarden's getting the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which is awesome. But like, that music needs to be played and needs to be heard. I'm carrying the torch for all of that, for all of those fans, and me as a fan of those bands too. And then I'm in the middle of making, my first solo rock record. I've made a lot of, EDM influence records, folk influence records, but a big ass riff rock record is coming. And so that is incorporated as well. I want a show where I'm playing my ass off on guitar. I really feel like never played better. I'm really pushed by my son, Roman. I don't know if you're familiar at all with his work.
Oh yeah, he can shred.
He's like I'm the rhythm guitar player in the family. He literally has me going back to the woodshed because I poke my head in his room. I'm like, can I borrow that riff, son?
Yeah, I started following him on Instagram. I unfollowed you, Tom.
That's good. Well, if you have to choose, I'm happy to pass the baton. You know what I mean?
I mean, you have all this going on, and I have to ask, how do you have time to be part of? You have a musical coming.
That's right.
To Goodman Theater, Revolutions, and you're handling the music and the lyrics and everything with that, correct?
That's right. Yeah, so that's something I'm super excited about. The Goodman Theater is a theater I've gone to my entire life. My mom used to take me there when I was a kid, for the Christmas shows and whatnot. I've seen great plays there. And Zay Dorn, who's a great playwright, good friend of mine, he reached out over the pandemic. He's like, I'm a huge fan of like the different facets of your musical career. He's down with sort of my point of view politically. And he's like, do you mind if I take a shot at writing a story that integrates, where you would be the person who writes the music? And I was like, sure. I mean, I'll check it out. And he wrote a beautiful Chicago story of, triumph and tragedy of like, it's political, but it's like, I didn't want, like, it's not Annie Get Your Gun kind of musical. You know what I mean? It's like an illegal rave with a bunch of heavy metal music.
And just to put the story out there, it's a soldier returning from Afghanistan. Just so
correct.
People understand what we're talking about with the music with that.
It's a multi-generational Chicago story of how like both the good that's in us and sometimes the less good that's in us gets translated through the generations and through the eyes of this veteran who comes home. And there's a lot of bangers in it. I'm actually in a couple of weeks going there for, we start rehearsals in a couple of weeks. So I'm really excited about that. As someone who, as a kid, I was in theater and LHS and whatnot. And I decided that I needed the more visceral power of rock and roll than auditioning for somebody else's show. So when we were doing this show, I thought it's got to have every bit of like the raw power of a great rock show while telling stories that I think are important.
This is like rock and roll Hamilton. That's what's going to happen.
It's like, you don't even know. Like, get ready. Like, it is all the way up in that regard.
And finally, Tom, you brought up the Rage Against the Machine, and it was the time for Rage Against the Machine to come back in that June of 2020 through July 2022. The United Center shows kicked it off there, and Zach gets hurt right in that show on the halfway through the show, finishes the show, kind of in a way became more memorable in a way. I hate it because he got so hurt. Sure. But what are your memories or thoughts on that and going forward at all, if possible? We've heard some things from Brad and with Rage Against the Machine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the irony was like leading up to that tour, I ruptured my Achilles. So I was in rehearsal, like, on crutches, and like, I was like, if I would have open heart surgery on stage and not cancel the show. You know what I mean? Like I like the show must go on. So then Zach, I mean, he was in such good shape. He had been everybody was doing their best to like make this thing happen. And sometimes it just happens, and he popped the Achilles and he had sort of seen my journey with it. And, we finished the US tour and then sadly canceled all the other stuff after that, and here's the way that I look at it is like Rage Against the Machine was always sort of a volatile situation. And the fact that we got 4 great records, the fact that we played shows in 2022 and a new generation those were, even when he was sitting down at those shows, those were some of the best Rage Against the Machine shows that we ever did, and really connected people. We finished with 5 sold out nights at Madison Square Garden. You know what I mean? So if there's never another show, that, you know, then that's quite a way to go out. But in the meantime, I cross my heart and hope to die, I am carrying the torch for every one of those riffs and all of the meaning in those songs, as well as the other things that I've been in. That music matters so much to me, and what it's about matters so much. And I am bringing that shit to Chicago, baby.
Hell yes. Bringing it at the Vic November 13th. Tom, I can't wait to hear the record you're talking about as well. And just thanks so much. When you get to town, we'll see you in the front row at the Vic.
Sure,
I'm getting right to the barricade.
Sure.
I'm pushing everybody out of the way to get right in the barricade up front. And we hope you can come in the studio. And thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us.
Well, it's always a pleasure. You know, go Cubs, etc. But
yeah, you know, go Cubs, baby.
Hello to all my Libertyville peeps there, and again, thank you very much. Is anything for you guys and for Chicago? It's like this was my radio station that did so much for Rage and Audioslave, so I appreciate it, man.
Well, we appreciate you. Thank you for being awesome.
Okay, take care.
See you, Tom.
All right.